Parashat. So we do Bamidbar, right? Netivot Shalom. And the Inyan Minyan Bnei Israel, what's the thing that Hashem was counting the Bnei Israel, right? There are a few times. So it said most of the Midbar, the Parsha, dealing with the counting of Bnei Israel, how many in each and every tribe, and the total amount. And we need to understand how is it related to us, right? Because after all, we know that the Torah is not just stories about the history, but it's infinite and it's always applicable to our time, right? The Torah Chaim Nitzchit. So what's the infinite or what's the Nitzchit? What is it related to us? The counting of Bnei Israel. Also, we need to understand when it says Se'u et rosh kol adat Bnei Israel, elevate the head of the Bnei Israel. Why does it say Suit mispar? Elevate right? You're counting the numbers, so elevate the numbers of the congregation. Also, in every place that it's called minyan, right? B'chol makom nikra minyan Bnei Israel, the counting or the number of Bnei Israel, right? Just counting without the verses or the word of nesiat rosh, of elevate the heads. And it says in Parashat Tisa, right? Ki Tisa et rosh Bnei Israel. And also we need to understand why it doesn't say over there in the parasha, when it says Ki Tisa et rosh Bnei Israel, it's referring to counting. So why doesn't it say count? And also we need to explain why the Levi'im were excluded from the counting. And the explanation is it's according to what it says. Sheyesh 60 ribot yod b'Torah, like there are 600,000 letters in the Torah. And also in the Klal Israel, there is 600,000 neshamot, souls. And each and every letter in the Torah represents a soul of a Jew. And also, when it says the Yud Ke Vav Ke, the Shem Hashem, right, Baruch Hu, is one, and it has 4 letters. And then if you do the combination of Yud Ke Vav Ke, Hey, Vav Ke, Hey, right, etc., you do the combination, there are 12 of them. And in the book Yesod HaAvodah, it says in the name of the Ari HaKadosh, that in the name of Havaya, right, the Yud Ke Vav Ke Baruch Hu, there also is said 600,000 combination, but it's very complicated. It's with you're replacing the Aleph Bet with other letters and do other Gematriot, etc. So you can get into 600,000. And he says, Veine, these 4 letters of Shem Hashem, Yud Ke Vav Ke, are like representing or against the 4 Degalim of Israel. Why? They were Degalim, flags, right? We had signs. So he says there are also these 12 combination of the name Hashem Yud Ke Vav Ke are also representing the 12 tribes. And the 600,000 combination of Shem Hashem are against or representing the 600,000 souls of Israel. And according to that, in the Klalut Israel, we have the Torah lighting and the Shem of Hashem is lighting to us, right? And each and every person, his soul, have that letter in the Torah. And he's part of the combination of Shem Hashem. So everything is related, everything is connected. And also he wrote over there in the book Yesod HaAvodah, Shekedei sheyushlam adam, so for the person to be complete, he always need to include himself, everything that he do with the Klal Israel, right? We learn many times that there is like a preparation before we daven, before a mitzvah that we do, which is L'Shem Yechud Kudsha, that we're uniting ourselves with Hashem and we are reuniting ourselves with Israel for the name of Yud Ke Vav Ke, right? Whatever, if it is the Tefillah of Avraham, which is the morning, or the afternoon, which is Mincha, and Yaakov Avinu for Arvit, and other mitzvot, before putting tefillin, tzitzit, etc. So always we need to include ourselves in order to be complete. By doing that, we have that, we're bringing the spiritual light from the Shem Hashem, from the Yud Ke Vav Ke, and from the Torah. And that's like, it's like turning out a light bulb in each and every soul and each and every mitzvah that we do. And then we'll find that the number of 600,000, actually it's an infinite, it's all related. It's not only the counting Bnei Israel at the time in the desert. Because in each and every avodah that we do, we should include ourselves with the Klalut Israel. Because individual by itself is not perfect. It cannot. Only when we are together, right? There are mitzvot that only the Kohanim can do, only the Leviim, only Israel, only when you're in the land of Israel, etc. But only when we are all including ourselves and uniting ourselves with Israel and Hashem, then we can be perfect. And the 600,000 letters in the Torah, it's perfection. And the 600,000 souls, Ribo Israel, right? They are perfection. And this is when the Torah was writing the number of the Bnei Israel. It's to teach us that their number is going into 600,000. And that's the perfection. He said, however, imki enitanu yoda mechaven b'mispar ze, that we don't know really to aim or to have a kavana in that number. But again, the infinite Torah and the number of Bnei Israel, that's an infinite thing, which are related to our avoda with Hashem. And this is the inyan of Nesiat Rosh Bnei Israel. This is how it is related to elevating the heads of Bnei Israel, which is referring to counting them. Why? Because when counting them, they're being elevated. And they're elevated only when we're counting, when we're all together, when there are 600,000 souls. And then it will be perfection. And also I learned another thing, that also counting something show how important it is for you. Money, we are all counting, sometimes few times, right? Or anything that is really important and we like, we count, we check, etc., etc. So it's Hashem is showing us how He loves us. So just by counting us, that's like by default already elevating us, because it's showing that Hashem loves us. And this is what explained in the Ma'amar of Maran Admor Baal Bet Avraham Yitzchoto Aganenu. He said that the Berov Hashem, in most of the years, we're reading in the Torah, in the Parashat of Bamidbar, prior to Kabbalat Torah, before Shavuot. Why? Because it is, again, the main thing, it's Klalut Mispar Bnei Israel, it's counting the Bnei Israel. And only when you have this Klalut, these numbers together, we can actually fulfill the Torah, right? We just learned that you cannot do you cannot keep all the mitzvot. Some you cannot do, and some other can do. But all together, when we're including ourselves, then we'll be able to keep all the mitzvot. And therefore, we're reading it before Shavuot. And only when we're uniting together, then we can fulfill the Torah. And therefore, prior to Kabbalat Torah, right, it says in the Torah, Vayichan Sham Israel. So it says Vayichan, which means in one heart, one person, one heart. Only by doing that, right, when we united together, we can receive the Torah. And therefore, V'avta le'arecha kamocha, u'klal gadol b'Torah. It's a great rule, right, to love our fellow Jews. Just a second. And therefore, קוראים בתורה פרשת במדבר קודם קבלת התורה, which is the parsha of that, right? It's when we are united together, when we come in together in בברית יחד, נעשה ונשמע, אמרו כאחד. And this is what it says in the Midrash, בראשית רבה, on the pasuk, right, that we learned that ונאספו שם כל העדרים וגדלו את האבן, right? I think it's referring to Yaakov Avinu, when he came, when all the herds came, and they all together, they rolled the stone over the well of water. But it says, שאילו היו ישראל חסרים עוד אחד, if we were missing one person, we couldn't receive the Torah, because we have to be in perfect number. So now we're going back to the Leviim. Why the Leviim were excluded from the counting? Because the Gedusha of the Leviim is a higher Gedusha, because they are in like the parts of between the letters. It says that if you look at the Torah, you see the parchment, you see the white, and you have the black ink. So they are the white parts. They are the white parts, the higher Gedusha. And therefore they were not counted, because as we said, they have no nachala, right? Hashem is nachlatam, etc. But still we need them, because you need to have the white parts between between the black ink. And Piamor, and according to that, which it says, right, in the Zmirot Shabbat, we were singing it, right? Kol Mekadesh Vis, we said, Yom Kadoshu Mibo Ve'at Seto, right? It's a holy day from the beginning till the end. Kol Zera Yaakov V'chavdu, right? The descendants of Yaakov, we will honor it. Kidvar HaMelech Vedato, right? Like the word of Hashem and his religion and his rule. Lanuach Bo, right? To rest and to be happy, to marry, to have the pleasure, eating, drinking, right? Kol Adat Israel Yasuto. So he said, he's dividing it. Zera Yaakov, the descendant of which is Zera Yaakov, they are the simple people, right? B'madrigot nemuchot. They are in the context of akev, of hill. So they will honor him as the king is saying, his rules. זה דבר המלך, זה תורה ודתו, right? So he said, these are the mitzvot. So they're honoring the Torah by Torah mitzvot. But to rest and to be happy in pleasure of eating and drinking, right? To honor the Shabbat and to please Hashem by eating and drinking, זהו רק כל עדת ישראל. So these are only the עדה. So it's you can play with the word, and it says עדה is the congregation. But if you're changing the location of the letters, then it's the letter da'at. Ve'Israel, right? So עדת Israel, it says da'at, wisdom, ve'Israel, אותיות לי ראש, a head, for myself. So only the one that have a brain, they have a sechel, right? They are the one that actually can honor the Shabbat by eating and drinking and elevate it to higher and higher from just keeping the Torah and the mitzvot. Of course, they're keeping the Torah mitzvot, but they also by eating and drinking, they're elevating it. So according to our words now, it says, Shekol Zera Yaakov, these are the individual. They are honoring the Shabbat by the book, by the Torah and Avodah. But a higher level for Shabbos Kodesh, you need to have the entire congregation of Israel to do it together, because individual cannot achieve it. And as I just said, right, each day have a mate, right? Sunday have Monday, Tuesday have Wednesday. Shabbat was left alone. Hashem told Shabbat, Israel will be your ben zug, your mate. So when we are getting together, that's the whole point of Knesset Israel, all right, Beit Knesset, the place of congregation, right? That's the mate of Shabbat Kodesh. And then we can actually achieve a higher level, which is lanuach bo velismoach, right? Tanok v'chol v'shato. So he said, and that's like in the level of our serving Hashem, then we can actually have pleasures and elevate into the Gedusha everything, only when we are together. And he says, and because each and every year, these light are being renewed of the Kabbalat Torah, it's not that we just receive it like 3,700 years ago. Every year we're receiving it. Every day we're receiving it. Then every year we need the same preparation and we need the counting. And that's why we're reading this parsha of the counting before Kabbalat Torah. And it is all about uniting. It's not only just counting the numbers of Bnei Israel, but it's also to have a unity with us, with Hashem, in the Torah. So Bezat Hashem, we will receive the Torah soon. And I wish that every time we will receive it, we will learn something new.